Alright, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Got a video for you guys today talking about my 6 favorite lures, or my 6 best producing lures actually from 2020. These 6 lures are what I caught pretty much all my big fish on, and I always had probably 2 to 3 of these lures tied on at all times. These lures worked very well for me, and one of these lures I just recently picked up using probably October or so of this fall. So that lure makes the top 6 because I absolutely destroyed fish on that all fall and early winter. So hope you guys enjoy this video. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit that sub down below for me before we get started here, and I will go ahead and start running through these lures and kind of explain each one and show you guys some fish I caught off of all of them and explain how I use them, and yep, that is about it. And I'll show you like kind of how I rig some of them up, or how I work them and stuff. So, but let's go ahead and get into this. I will start off with number 6. That is going to be the Ned rig for a lot of reasons. Ned rig, I always have a Ned rig tied on, always. So simple, so easy. Just a little bitty head, little weed guard on it for throwing it in the rocks and stuff so you don't get hung up. All it is, I mean, it looks stupid. It's just a little bitty worm. That's it. Bounce it. I just throw it out, bounce it along the bottom. Sometimes they want it slow. Sometimes you got to drag it. But I mean, this thing just gets bites, and I've caught quite a few big fish on them too. So it ain't just, I mean, although it is a little bitty bait, it ain't just catching the little dinks all the time, which you do run through a lot of small fish on this lure just because it is a smaller profile bait. But I also caught a lot of good fish on them as well too, especially in the creeks. I feel like those fish in the creeks kind of feed on smaller forage anyway, so I think throwing the smaller baits in those creeks, those bigger fish are still prone to hit them. Super simple, super easy to fish. I mean, you literally just throw it out, bounce it along the bottom, stop it, bounce along the bottom, stop it, and that's pretty much it. Super simple. You'll feel a little tap on the paws, set the hook, real light hook set. Don't need to rip their faces off with this thing. Number 5 is going to have to be the HD Swimmer little 3.5 inch swim bait. And this little thing right here just straight up catches fish. I don't know if it's that little fat belly it's got on it down there. You can see the little belly it's got on it, or if it's just the way it wobbles so much when it swims. And if you throw it on these certain heads that I have here, where the eyelet goes the opposite way, like normally your bait, the eyelet would be this way. If your eyelet goes like inline, I don't know how to explain it. I know there's probably a word for it, but yeah, this gives it even a bigger wobble. And these things, all I do is throw them out. Depends if I'm fishing current or something, you can just burn it through the current or whatever. But usually I get this thing on the very bottom, just tickling the bottom. And then I even fish these in the winter as well. And I mean, you just slow crank, just creeping along the bottom with these things, and these fish will pick them up even in the winter. But I caught a lot of fish this spring and summer in the creeks on these swimmers. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know how to fish a swim bait, but for the most part you can just throw those out and reel them straight in. But I also I rig them up a lot on actually the Bitsy bug jig heads. I just take the skirt off and put them on these heads, and it's got the nice weed guard here. Keeps me from getting hung up, because you will get hung up a lot if you just throw an open hook and you're trying to drag it along the bottom in rocks. About every other cast you're going to get snagged up. If you're from the bank, you're screwed, but I mean, if you're in a boat or kayak, you're fine. But I also did a lot of damage on those at Lake of the Ozarks, unlike some smaller schooling fish. But for the most part, I was throwing those in rivers and creeks this year and caught a lot of fish on them. Number 4 is going to have to be the Rapala jerkbait, the rip stop. I threw these jerkbaits a ton in the spring. And these little things right here get eaten. I even catch, in like my latest 2 videos I put out, caught a lot of trout on these as well. And I actually caught some smallies on these just like 2 weeks ago. But I caught a ton of big fish on these. These things in the creeks are awesome. They got the little bitty lip on them. Don't go but like 4 feet deep, I think. That's like max depth. So run them in these creeks pretty easy. And jerkbait's super simple to use. You can just kind of twitch it all the way back to you if you want. I do a couple twitches, pause, twitch, pause, couple, pause, twitch, pause. That's how I work those though. Super simple, super effective. If you're in these little clear water creeks, you can watch them just destroy it. They hit it super hard. They'll be sitting there kind of watching it. They'll jerk it and they just ambush it and attack it. And I've caught quite a few doubles on these jerk baits as well. In these creeks, these fish really like to attack whatever lure that is in that fish's mouth. So when you got the 2 trebles on, real good chance of getting doubles. Number 3 is going to be the 6th Sense swim jig. Now this is the lure that I talked about. I didn't even start throwing until like October. But these swim jigs right here are money, especially at Lake of the Ozarks is where I was throwing them a lot. But then I started throwing them around ponds and stuff too and did really well. And I will probably always have one of these tied on now, just after the performance I've seen of these things. The one thing I did do, the only modification I did do on these swim jigs, is I cut that weed guard way down. The weed guard, here I got some other ones here. The weed guard sticks way up like that, and I was missing a lot of fish. And I think if you're not in the weeds, like I was just throwing it in open water, running along dock edges and stuff. And I think if you're in open water, you don't need that weed guard on there. So I took this thing and cut it way down, so there's no weed guard sticking up there. It's just hook point. Got me a lot of more bites. Swim baits I use on the back of these. I like the Kitex, the 3.8 inch Kitex. I throw on the back of these a lot. I throw Guggen Saucy Swimmers a lot. They're a little bit bigger baits and the skirt's kind of long. I guess you could trim it and throw the HD swimmer on it, but I've been leaving the skirts at the normal length and then just running a trailer that sticks off about 2 inches from the skirt. So I've been fishing these. How I fished these this year, I was just running them along dock edges the whole time, catching suspended fish right underneath the foam of docks. And then I caught a few out in like open water and stuff too, but for the most part just running them along docks. And then ponds were just chucking them along the banks. Actually, this bait right here is the one that won me big fish in the USA Basin and got us an invite to the Lucas Oil Tournament of Champs in 2022 at Lake Chickamauga. So be looking forward to fishing that next year. It's actually next spring, so we got about a little over a year still. This, I forget what color that white one I was just holding was, but these ones are the, I'm gonna try to get up closer for you guys. The Bluegill Fire, I'm pretty sure is what they're called, or something like that. Super cool colors, and I'll throw like a greenish pumpkin color trailer on the back of that one. And then this one obviously is just mimicking shad imitation colors, just white and silverish colors. Number 2 is going to have to be the Bitsy bug jig. I have one of these Bitsy bugs tied on every single time I go out, all year round, all the time. I always have the Bitsy bug tied on. It's the number 1 jig I throw, especially around here in like these smaller, skinnier waters. If I'm at Lake of the Ozarks or something, I'll be throwing a football head jig or something like that for the most part, but I'll still throw a Bitsy bug jig if I'm struggling getting a bite, go a little more finesse on them. But these little baits here, there's just one trailer I throw on. I think this is a Strike King little trailer on it. But they fit all sorts of trailers, and it just depends on what the fish are kind of wanting after I figure them out. The HD crawl fits on these jigs, and a lot of the times I'll actually throw one of those Z-Man TRD worms, the Ned rig I was just holding up. this Ned rig, I will throw this TRD Z-Man on the back of those jigs, and I've caught a ton of fish throwing that. By far, probably the most thing that I throw in the creeks are these Bitsy bug jigs, and they come in every single color you can think of pretty much. For the most part, I'm throwing like black, green, or that green pumpkin and red. But for the most part, I think I usually use black or that green pumpkin is what I'm basically throwing almost all the time. Here's the packaging. I usually use a 1/4 ounce. That's what they look like in the pack. Get them at Walmart or anywhere. And then my #1 lure that I caught the most fish, lost my PB on it, and then caught my 3 PB river largies this year on it. It's got to be the Whopper plopper. And I know you guys know what a Whopper plopper is. The craze has been wild this past year with this thing. There's a lot of people talking about them. Come in all different sizes. By far got to be my favorite topwater lure to throw. I mean, the explosions on it are just unreal. The only thing I don't like is if they hook, it's for these creeks, they get that back hook in them, and you can see how this lure slings around. So the fish comes up, they just sling this thing out of their mouth pretty dang easy. These creeks I fish, it's hard to keep those fish down because they'll come up in real shallow water and you know they're going to jump. So that's actually how I lost my PB smallie this year, and it was probably a 5-pound Ozark smallie. So come in all different sizes though. This is my favorite color. I think this one's the baby bass. Not 100% sure. I also throw the bone color lot, yellow. They come in all different colors and sizes, guys. I mean, those are the 90 sizes that I was just holding up. That's mainly what I throw. They also have the 75, which is like a shorter, fatter version. They have like a 110, a 130, a 190. I forget what this one is, but this is a real big one. And I got this for chucking around at Lake of the Ozarks. Might not look that big here, but it's a pretty big bait, pretty heavy bait. That's gonna do it for my my top 6 lures for 2020. All good stuff, you know. You guys, getting into fishing is kind of tough. Don't know where to start or what to get, and you see all these ads and all these people promoting stuff, and I'm not promoting any of these things. Those are my 6 baits that I always would have tied on, always use, and I caught all my big fish on for the most part. And then there was a few things that I'd throw. I had fun throwing, like the baby bull shad and stuff like that. And I obviously threw cranks quite a bit. A bunch of other jerk baits and stuff, but those lures there are what I mainly would have tied on. Then I'd usually have something else random tied on as well along with those. So hope you guys enjoyed that video. That is my 6 lures that performed the best for me in 2020. If you guys enjoyed this, go ahead and hit the like, sub, leave a comment down below, do whatever you want. But I will catch you guys in the next video.